All right, we now know the second entrant into the WWE Hall of Fame class of 2024. It is going to be Bull Nakano, who is joining this class, and rightfully so. Someone who you want to talk about one of the best women's wrestlers of all time. This qualifies for what she has accomplished throughout her career. And again, I think this is one that was a no-brainer for WWE. Of course, we know Paul Heyman already into the class of 2024 in Philadelphia, and Bull Nakano joins the mix. And I'm going to give you a quote here from the ESPN interview that she did with Mark Raimondi. And here's the quote. During my active years, I was able to get championship belts in Japan, America, and Mexico. But just one thing was missing. I didn't get inducted into the Hall of Fame. I wanted this. Finally, in 2024, in WrestleMania week, I am able to get this. So there you go. That's the quote in that interview with ESPN. But, I mean, look, there's a lot. I mean, we could spend an hour talking about the career of someone like this that has sort of, again, blazed a trail. You think back into, got start in the 80s, what she did in the 90s. Again, whether it was in All Japan, whether it was the stuff that probably more American fans are going to remember, and that is just the talent that we saw on display in her matches and her rivalry with Alundra Blayze, aka Medusa, back in the mid-90s. Those two had just some tremendous stuff. And again, this was sort of, even if you want to say, all right, well, maybe this stuff was comparing to what we see now and all this other stuff, it's what it meant kind of at the time. And it, again, was seeing how talented these two were when you saw the feud that they had in WWE during that time. I'm looking back now. I mean, 94, around August of 94 is kind of when that started. When you started seeing the matches between the two. They had one at SummerSlam 94, some other matches along the way. But they even had one in WCW in 1996. But I think what you could see, again, was sort of remember where, at least in America, like where we saw women's wrestling at the time and how much that was getting pushed versus the men's wrestling. And I think now it's so different where they're just both intertwined when you see it like on WWE television and such. But this is where like you have to go beyond WWE. And we all know if you're watching this and you've watched a lot of professional wrestling over the years, there is a world outside of WWE. And when you see kind of what she was able to do with All Japan, and again, just kind of the mark she left on women's wrestling in general, given the talent and like just the great visual. We always talk about like, yes, like, the wrestling matters, all this other stuff, but the presentation, like just the visual of looking at Bull Nakano and just being like, wow, like that's a star. And you could see it, again, just kind of with the presentation, just such a striking image. And I think that is something, too, that really stood out kind of in that time period and always has when you look at just kind of the imprint she's left on women's wrestling. And, I mean, again, I think it's just I'm trying to remember back, and now I'm like, I know I'm going to go back and watch some of these matches that she had with Alundra Blayze in the mid-90s because those were, again, just felt so different at the time from anything else you'd seen if you were just watching the WWF, right? If you were watching other things, if you were familiar with All Japan and everything else, then okay, you probably had an idea of what she had done, to that point when she started to branch out and go to America, go to Mexico, all that like she did during that time period in the 90s. But it's just, again, I think, and hopefully I'm sure, look, it's the internet, right? There's plenty of ways that you can go back and watch her matches and really get a great idea, even now, of what she was. And I would have to think there's going to be a lot of people doing that, as now knowing she's being inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame. You'll get great footage, I'm sure, from WWE, but just going back and seeing some of the matches she had during that time period, they were so different than anything else, and that's why she became kind of the legend that she did. And we always talk about people, too, that, the WWE Hall of Fame for years, it's just sometimes it's not knocking anyone that gets inducted, but, there's always a focus like on the celebrity aspect, and understandably so. They want to get the marketing, they want to get the eyeballs, all of that. But there are always those people that you look back on, and you're like, how are those people not yet in the Hall of Fame? And we know part of that, at times over the years, has been the fact that there was probably a grudge held somewhere along the way. From one party or another, maybe in many cases from WWE's side, of not wanting to induct someone. The obvious name I'm thinking of is Lex Luger, who is someone that's always been out there as, okay, Lex has to be in the Hall of Fame at some point. Will that happen this year? I don't know. But, is that rift still there now that you have Vince McMahon removed as someone who's making those top decisions. Triple H is the person now making these decisions on the Hall of Fame. And so does that open up the opportunities to get people in there that they should have been in there a while ago? And I think this is someone, without question, Bull Nakano, who should have been in there a while ago, just, again, based on how much WWE has kind of evolved from a women's wrestling standpoint, and knowing that she was one of those people, just like Medusa / Alundra Blayze, just like her, who kind of, made a path and really put, a women's wrestling, again, imprint kind of on professional wrestling and being known as two of the best of their generation. And yeah, it's great to see her get that due because, like I said, it's not always something we've seen WWE do over the years where, they're bringing in names like this that without question should be in a Hall of Fame. And now, to get kind of, and also, again, just to read the interview she did with ESPN, I'll link it in the description below, but just to see, her joy too for getting this opportunity and knowing that, this kind of puts that cap on just a great career. And look, as always, there are probably going to be people who have seen matches that I have not yet seen of Bull Nakano, but now I know I want to go back and seek out more of the All Japan stuff, even seeing some of that stuff in the 90s. That it was at the time, you're just like, wow, like this is someone who has everything you need. And you could just see I always talk about star quality. The star quality was as evident as ever for someone like this. I mean, she was just so unique and, yeah, rightfully getting her spot now in the WWE Hall of Fame class of 2024. So let me know what you think about Bull Nakano making it to the WWE Hall of Fame. Any matches you want to recommend for other wrestling fans? People looking in the comments. I think it's great to kind of go through a match guide, which you can do it on Cage Match. Like I mentioned, if you want to have a starting point just from her WWF stuff, obviously that was the matches she did with Alundra Blayze starting in kind of August of 94. So you can watch through those and get an idea, again, of why people kind of remember that feud between the two and just sort of, again, the sort of legacy that they both left as opponents, but also just the legacy they left in terms of their impact on women's professional wrestling. So great stuff. Bull Nakano entering the WWE Hall of Fame 2024 in Philadelphia. So appreciate you guys watching as always. Be sure to hit that subscribe button, hit the like button. New channel here. Enjoy talking wrestling with you guys. Always enjoy the feedback. Let me know what you think about the newest inductee into the WWE Hall of Fame class of 2024.